Welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. My name is Hilary, and I'm joined again by Nick.
Happy to be back. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this weird story today.
Yes, we're talking about the first X-Men. It's by Neal Adams and Christos Gage. Christos?
I don't know.
As soon as I said Christos, it seemed wrong, but I guess Christos doesn't seem...
I've been saying Christos in my head.
Yeah. Christos Gage.
We'll lock it in.
We had a poll up on Twitter about our next spotlight, and so this one it was up between X-Men Ronin, X-Men Fairy Tales, and X-Men Misfits. Was it close?
I mean, I was watching it. It was hard for me to decide, based on which one of these I wanted to talk about, because I think all of those are cool. I feel like it ended pretty close with X-Men Ronin and First X-Men.
Yeah.
Seemed to be the ones that were kind of the horse race there.
Well, maybe I'll have to pick that up later. Although, is Ronin a Wolverine?
Well, it is, but it's part of the Marvel manga-verse, and it's actually a pretty cool retelling of the story. Like, it's not just Wolverine. It's Wolverine heavy, but it's not just Wolverine.
I'm just saying, we can't do another Wolverine right off the bat.
Have you read X-Men Misfits?
I feel like yes, but I don't know.
X-Men Misfits is by Raina Telgemeier, and she's best known for her, non-Marvel stuff like Sisters and Drama and Smile, graphic novels for young adult age. She wrote X-Men Misfits, and it is manga style, and it was such a cool premise, and they just didn't do anything with it.
I hate when they do that.
I know.
I hate when they lay the groundwork and then they're like, nah.
Well, I am excited to be talking about this one today. I think it's a fun pick.
Yeah, first X-Men. It came out in October of 2012, ran for 5 issues, and like I said, it was written by Neal Adams and Christos Gage. Neal Adams did the art. You had some shade on Neal Adams over on Twitter. What was that about?
Well, okay, so I most closely associate Neal Adams with DC. He's a legendary artist, illustrator. Writing, I think, is a little bit more... I mean, he's always written a little bit, but I think it's a little bit more heavy that when he does something, it tends to be, both written and illustrated by. But probably what you're thinking of is Batman Odyssey. He did these books for DC. Batman Odyssey was, I think, 12 issues, and it was one of those ones that everybody was like, this is terrible. This is the worst book in the world. And so I read it because I was kind of curious. I wasn't originally going to, but I read this one he did in 2016 called Coming of the Supermen, I think, which ended up being this very weird 80s style Superman story. I love Superman in the 80s, and so that one really worked for me, and I thought, okay, well, maybe Batman Odyssey is just not everybody's cup of tea, but I'll like it because that's the era that I like. No. It is just a weird...
What's wrong with it? Just too crazy?
Everything about it is weird. The art is really weird. Batman is narrating the story shirtless, and he's just hairy as a wolf, just sitting there, and it's just such a weird lens for it. And the story is, I mean, I defy you to write a synopsis for it. You couldn't. It's nonsense.
That's so funny. I mean, when you're comparing it to something like the first X-Men, it's very straightforward.
Well, and I wonder how much of that is Christos Gage. I honestly don't.
Just reining him in.
Well, because Neal Adams and Christos Gage are both credited as the authors on this. In Batman Odyssey and Coming of the Superman, it's just Neal Adams. So I don't know if that's a steadying hand. I really don't know. But, his work on old school, Batman or the classic Green Arrow, Green Lantern run. Do you remember that old, the Denny O'Neil run where it was Speedy's on cocaine or whatever? Do you remember there was this iconic cover where they run in and Speedy's doing pills or something?
My gosh.
Yeah. No, it's intense. And Neal Adams was the illustrator on all that. So that's typically where I think of him as more of a DC guy. But his Marvel work does go back quite a ways as well. So...
Oh, cool. Had you read this run before?
I did. Well, I read those 3 things sort of together. I read Coming of the Superman and Odyssey, and then I was like, I got to read First X-Men. So it's been a while now. And so I remembered the beats of it, but going back and revisiting it, there's a lot of things that I didn't remember either. What about you? Were you familiar with this?
I'd never read it. I think just looking at what runs to do for our next spotlight was the first time I'd really looked at this at all. So it was interesting to get into.
I don't feel like it did much. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I never hear people really talking about it. So I don't know if it ever really popped. Marvel did another title called, I think it was called First Avengers. Wrong. It was called Avengers 1959. I didn't like that one at all, and I thought this was a much better use of that, what if there was a proto of whatever team you're talking about? So
yeah, this one was interesting. I mean, the premise is basically that the X-Men haven't happened yet. Xavier hasn't done anything yet.
Right.
Wolverine sort of decides, well, somebody's got to take care of this mutant thing.
Right.
And so he's going to start a little group of
He's
young
very
mutants.
responsible here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different... You're sort of getting a late days Wolverine.
It's a post-movies Wolverine,
Yeah.
wouldn't you say? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an unusual take, but it does sort of act as if maybe it was real. Like, I don't think it necessarily is real, but it's never like, it's not goofy enough to be like, this definitely didn't happen.
True.
So it's just sort of toes that line a little
Yeah.
bit. But it's a tricky, because it tries to sort of set up, like, once they get to the end, it sort of tries to set up, like, and that's why Sabretooth is a dick, and like, and like those kinds of things.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So like, it's pretending a little bit like it might be.
I don't know that I think it's like a personal preference thing. I don't know that it really hurts to say, yes, it's in continuity versus it's just a standalone.
No, I don't think
matter?
so. I mean, like, I think you end up bumping up against those characterization issues more than anything else.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that they do, like, they use characters that don't show up anywhere else.
Right.
They have this thing, I mean, we'll get into it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they have this whole thing where, like, all of these people are known as dead now in the files and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, there's just stuff like that that's like, and there's no way to know
Yeah, prove it didn't
what
happen.
happened.
Prove it didn't happen.
So yeah, you wonder.
Well, like I said, I think I see Neal Adams, I think DC, but when I think of Marvel, I do associate him with the X-Men. And it's funny because I went back to look at what he'd actually done for the X-Men, and it's not a ton.
He did
really.
this.
Yes, he did
He
this.
did first X-Men.
Yes, he did. And he did, like, in 69-70, he did issues 56 to 63 of X-Men, and he also did 65 as well. And you and Eric were just talking about this run a few episodes back.
Neal Adams run?
When you did the Sentinel Spotlight.
Oh,
it's
yes.
all the stuff with, now the medallion's
what a
off.
flood of information
and so,
that was.
Yeah. And so, not a ton, but it's very highly regarded. Like, Neal Adams gets his own X-Men Visionaries Neal Adams title just for those issues. And, I'm a fan of, if you ever watched or listened to Comic Book Coffee Break, you know that retro comics are like, that's my thing.
Oh, yeah.
Those were the quarter bins I was diving. And looking at that art, I was actually pretty surprised that I was reading a comic from the 60s. It felt, I don't know, it's dynamic, and the way the panels are laid out, the use of color, the unusual panels. It is a very different vibe than I would typically associate with 60s X-Men.
Yeah.
Should we just get into this story?
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right.
So it starts straight off the bat with Wolverine having like the inner monologue,
Yes.
sort of like almost like a PI kind of a situation.
Yeah, and I don't know that they ever fully flesh out Wolverine's motivations. I think it's just sort of like, here's what he's doing.
You're
deal
just
with
thrown
it.
right in.
Yeah.
He's got some like old war buddy or something whose
Yes.
son is in trouble. And
Right.
he's in mutant trouble.
Of course.
And so Wolverine is going to get involved. And so we see him find the guy, Anthony,
Yes.
who is having some mutant crisis, as we often bump into.
Yes, this happens.
And he's on a park bench, and he seems to like have some sort of energy building up inside of him. And Wolverine comes, he's trying to talk to him and like, hey man, I'm a mutant like you. We can jam.
We can work it out.
But unfortunately, Anthony blows up.
Yes.
Just blows up
Yes.
completely. And of course everybody's like, oh no, those two men are now dead. But then Wolverine is fine
course,
because
he's healing.
he's Wolverine. So that's how we get into this whole thing.
And that's really the thing that sort of sets it all off in motion. Like,
yeah, it's the instigating.
He gets pulled into this because of his buddy's kid, and then he and Sabretooth, it's not really
I think
clear.
what's happening is that Wolverine bumps into this kid
Yeah.
and is like, the kid explodes, and so it just sort of like triggers this thing in Wolverine where he's like, someone's got to deal with this thing. There's all these kids who are mutants, and like I gotta solve this problem.
Yeah.
And so I guess to me, that doesn't super seem like an early Wolverine motivation.
No, but
because I think as you watch him grow, you always see that element to his character, but I
Yes.
think the situation is that early in his life,
Yeah.
he stifles that.
Yeah.
Like, you know it's there, but he spends most of his time being like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I'm just doing my own thing. But this one, just like right off the bat, he's like, I'm gonna save these kids. And like seek out these kids. It's not even like there's something present in front of him.
Yes.
And he's like, you know what? I don't want to be that guy, but I'm here and no one else is going to help this kid. So I'm going to help this kid. Anthony is gone.
Yeah.
He thinks Anthony is dead. He's just going to go find other kids, hypothetical children who are having mutant crises.
Yeah.
He is going to form a team. He's going to deal with the situation. I don't super see him doing that.
No, and especially, I mean, this is pre-Weapon X. This is just like Logan just kind of like out there living his life. So it's
and he's like, what? He's like a mercenary or something?
I guess.
They do a little bit of like once. Okay, so he makes this decision, and then we come across Sabretooth,
Right.
Creed,
Yes.
and it comes out that like they're a team of some kind. Like they do stuff together, and I think that they like. I don't know if they're assassins. There's some sort of killing.
Yeah,
thing.
they don't really get into it, I don't think.
But I guess the point is the two of them are a team, and Wolverine comes to this decision. He decides, Sabretooth, you're doing this with me.
Yeah.
Sabretooth does not want to.
Yeah.
But why does he?
I don't know. Well, at some point they come across this list of like other mutants that are in trouble. You know, they come up when they go back to wherever Wolverine's friends, like the guy who's the father of the kid who blew up, they go back to this place and they find a list, and so they're like, all right, well, we're just gonna like go through this list and we're gonna help these people. And
because part of it, see,
Yeah.
well, this is a lot less together than I remembered it.
Yeah.
But there's something about the government
Yes.
early on. Does someone come to try to like clean up the Anthony mess?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that must be it. Because part of the motivation isn't just these kids are in crisis; it's also the government or whoever is like looking for them. So I need to find them first.
Yes.
So like, there's lots of motivations for him to do it.
There's motivations for someone to do
someone,
it, right?
yes, for someone.
But you're right, because like the more, especially this is a post movie Wolverine, this is a post Hugh Jackman Wolverine.
Yeah.
And you know, Wolverine as a reluctant mentor is it something that's been explored for, you know, a lot of the character's history, but I think now it's almost exclusively what it is. You know,
See, this is a pet peeve of mine too, because like I really hate when people act like what you eventually learn about a character is how they have always been. Like if this is just a crystal clear example. It matters the things that he went through to become that person.
Right.
Like he was not always the person who would do these things. Like the time in between had an effect on his character.
Absolutely. Well, like Jason Aaron did a Wolverine in the X-Men run, and there was a Wolverine in the X-Men series as well. And in both of those situations, it's like the professor's gone and Jean's gone, and he's like the only one left, and he's like, well, darn it, I'm not going to let this just go.
Right.
And so, like, yes, that's definitely there. And back when Fred Van Lente was on the show, he was saying in his Wolverine First Class that he basically just leaned into that and wrote Wolverine like an old hockey dad.
Yeah.
You know? And this, again, is just like jumping a lot of steps and just being like, Wolverine cares about the young, downtrodden mutants.
But like it hardly matters that he becomes that if he doesn't start out the way we know he started out.
Yeah. So the next mutant they find is Holly Bright.
Hollow, yep. Who I could have sworn was an actual character, but apparently is not.
Actually, I thought so too. I
think that there's a character called Hollow, but I think it's hollow like an empty.
Oh, I see.
I think is what I'm thinking of. Anyway, she's only in this run.
Yeah.
We see her for the very first time. She's in an alleyway. I think they're actively looking for mutants at this point, right?
They have the list. They're looking for her.
Okay. So they come across her in an alley. It's, it seems like she's,
A prostitute. Yes.
And turns out that no, she's
she's
there's
sort
a
of
man.
is.
Well,
Right.
she's sort of.
Yeah.
Well, she's not selling her body.
Right.
But basically, she's brought this man into an alley to show him an illusion of his daughter who died.
Who died in a fire that he blames himself for.
Yes.
So he's getting sort of absolution from this Hollow.
Right. And so he's going to give her money. So that's the interchange there.
Then you learn pretty quickly that that her powers are legit. I mean, when she's making a Hollow hologram or whatever, I guess that's what we'll call them, a projection. Like Wolverine and Sabretooth can like smell them, and so it's like it's very
it's not she's not making images.
Yeah.
She's manipulating the physiology of the person so that like she's making their senses react as if
their brain
those things
thinks
are
it's
real.
real. So right away, I mean, her and Sabretooth, they start off being like, I don't like you. He calls her jailbait because when she's not in her regular form, she's 18.
Yeah, everything they do with Hollow is a little not great. I mean, when you first see her, she's all vamped up, you know, looking all pretty.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that, oh no, she's actually much smaller. But she looks like a kid, but I guess she's not really a kid. She's like 18.
Yeah, they say specifically.
So like technically not a kid.
Right.
But then like she keeps putting on the illusion of the other body, but there's not really any discussion of that.
Right.
And so it's just a very weird, I don't know. It's all...
Well, I mean, we would get into this in later issues, but I think it's all in service of Sabretooth's character. I think that's the only reason.
I don't like that.
Well, no, I don't either, but I think that's the answer to the question why she does it. It's Sabretooth.
So the next thing that happens, which just occurred to me, I think is funny in light of the movies, they bump into, or they find Xavier.
They're looking for him.
They're looking for Xavier. They want to recruit him into the thing. And so then it reminds me of
he's like, go F yourself.
Yeah, it's like First Class. It's like a little reversal thing. But anyway, they find Xavier. He's in the military somehow.
Yes, he
He's
is.
like, I don't know. He's still walking at this point. Doesn't appear to know Magneto or anything like that. I don't know what his timeline is supposed to be like.
I'm not sure either.
In this situation.
Moira's there as well.
Yeah, and they're gonna like start a family and stuff. And even this little bit, we only see Xavier for a little bit because he basically says, "No, I don't want to be involved in this. I'm starting a life with my fiance, I guess, and like forget it." Pretty quickly, we see that he gets right down to all of his unethical nonsense because he's like manipulating his supervisor, like his commanding officer, I guess, to like give him the like. What are they?
When they get to that's a later issue, but he eventually uses his power to kind of get what he wants.
So like
right
it
away.
seems he's just like, well, I guess when you're looking at First Class, he's using his power to like hit on chicks and stuff.
Yes,
so
he
it's
sure is. Yeah,
that's there.
Yeah, so Xavier turns him down flat, and they're like, "What about this other guy, Eric Lencher?"
Yep, who's having another First Class reminiscent moment.
Yes, he is.
I mean, like lots of things reminiscent, but he's hunting Nazis, and so I think just before they find him or something, he kills a Nazi and then they find him and they're asking him to join them. He thinks that they are foolish and he wants no part in it, but he's not going to attack them.
Yes.
He's just going to let them fail.
That's right. Yeah. The first issue ends on a cliffhanger of the the Magneto. They don't call him that, but the reveal. And then into the second issue is when we really get into that. And we meet some new characters in issue 2 here.
Yeah. I found these characters confusing.
Okay.
I think just because they're not really super introduced. They're just like presented. Like this Yeti character who shows up is just like, he's just there and he's got a very striking mutant situation. But I don't know, like it doesn't feel like they're really introduced so much as like, hey, here's this kid. What are we going to do?
I don't think there's a lot of care to giving the individual characters much reason to do anything that they're doing.
Yeah. But like Yeti's got a brother.
Yeah.
But even that, I don't know.
Yeti's...
Like I forgot about it half the time.
I know.
And then like I would be like, oh yeah, right. Yeah. Because he cares about that.
So that's basically his thing. They interrupt a fight with Yeti and then they learn about him a little bit and they learn that his brother has been captured by the government.
The government.
And
online it says that the villain was the FBI.
I think that's kind of true.
So
yeah.
I guess it's the FBI.
There's a couple of good agents within there that they interact with, but like the FBI
is Trask with the FBI?
Trask's position is a little bit more like you don't get much of Trask. You just get a little bit. I don't think he is. No, I don't think
because
he is.
That's the thing. Like I guess the government is probably a better way because I guess there are multiple elements because there's Trask who I guess is like a consultant of some kind, which he often is.
He feels
He's
like an
pushing the sentinels and stuff.
Yeah.
They're trying to get somebody to approve a plan. So maybe like a senator or maybe like someone in the military. I'm not sure. But there's definitely an FBI agent.
Yes, there is.
We know that.
Yes, there is. There's a couple.
So anyway, the government has Yeti's brother.
Yes.
who we don't know.
We don't know. No, we don't know yet. We don't know what his story is. But we learned that Anthony, from the first issue, the one who set this all off, Bomb, is alive.
Yeah.
That's just his power.
But he was like buried.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
They had, because they come, now where are they? Because they get to like a lab or something.
Thing. They globetrot in this. They're everywhere. They're all over the place.
They get to, okay, so there's like a lab or something that they free someone from. Yeah. Why are they at a lab?
I don't remember.
I am losing the track of this. So hang on. We know Yeti. We just met Yeti.
Yes.
We know he has a brother. We haven't met his brother yet. Mm-hmm. Then they're at a lab. Are they looking for his brother?
Well, they do look for his brother. That could be what you're thinking.
Okay, so they're looking for his brother, and then they find that the government is throwing bodies into the ground. Am I making this up?
No. There's, I think they're, yes, because they're like, I mean, you kind of find out why a little bit later, but there's some experimentation going on, and the hosts that are rejecting.
Right, I did not make that connection till later.
Okay, so we'll get to it. But yes, they're mutants who are found to be unsuitable.
Yes,
for whatever
so they're being
is
buried.
Going on.
So all of this to say, Bomb is buried.
Yes.
And I think Wolverine like hears him or something and is like, there's someone alive in there. And then Bomb like directs his energy out and like explodes out of the ground. Yeah. And they're like, Bomb, you're here. But they don't call him Bomb because they don't. Yeah. They haven't given the name
Anthony.
Yet. Anthony, you're alive.
Yes.
Yay.
And so then there's kind of it's not a tension between Victor and Logan at this point, but I think Victor's a little more like, all right, we got these guys, let's get out of here. Let's just like cash out, let's go. And Logan is more like, no, dude, like we got this whole list. We gotta see this through.
Well, Logan's on a mission. I mean, it makes sense because he's the one who started the whole thing anyway.
Definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, he's got like his mission. He wants to complete it, and Sabretooth just. He doesn't want to put himself at risk. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
well,
so,
and they've rescued several people now, and the people that they were specifically looking for.
Now, is he yet together with Hollow?
Well, so then we get kind of a training montage, where we do, where Sabretooth is like, these aren't soldiers, and Wolverine's like, well, we'll make them soldiers, and we get a full-on training montage in comic book form. Mm-hmm. And this is where it's pretty clear that if they're not together, they're at least pretty seriously vibing.
Okay. So this isn't the part where they like go into a separate room. Because there's a part where they go into a separate room. Yeah. And it's very like purposeful. It's like we're gonna go in here and have some sex.
That's issue 3. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, yes. So we haven't done that. We're just vibing.
Yep.
Okay.
So they eventually do find Magneto in issue 2, but what we learn is the biggest thing of what's behind here. That there's a secret weapon called Virus.
But we don't see Virus.
I don't think we
just hear about Virus.
You get kind of a sense of the kind of thing. I think you get a monster vibe.
So the first 2 issues are like gathering the people. Yeah. We bump into Magneto. Is he going to be the big bad? Mm-hmm. No, he's not going to be the big bad. And then we're just sort of done. Yeah. Okay. So then we have issue 3.
Okay. And was this Namor?
I mean, it has to.
I think it has to.
He ends up in the water.
He does end up, and he's got the point. He's got the Spock ears.
He's got the pointy ears. So. There was something really like immediately that I was like, well, that's Namor. Yeah. I can't remember what they said something. I don't know.
But that's nothing really comes of that.
No, it doesn't, and it's.
I guess it's just a cameo.
I think it's just a cameo. Okay. But like, because I think that this is the middle issue. And I think if this had been longer, then it might have been like. You have this sort of rising action, and then like there's random stuff in the middle, and like, oh, what happens with this character, and oh, they bump into this character, but there's just the one because there's only 5 issues, right? So it's Namor. They chose Namor to be that, to be that character. So he's crazy. I don't think we ever figure out why.
No, I don't think we do either. And this is the thing that makes me question: was this always intended to be a 5-issue limited series? Because that was my impression, but this feels a little bit like
like they're planting, like he's the first of like multiple. That would make sense. Yeah, but he's the only one. He dives into the water. How does he end up in the water?
Bomb like blows up.
Oh yeah, and then he ends up in the water, and then he's like, "Oh, this seems right somehow."
Go and seduce Sue Storm.
That's the end of our Namor storyline. This is where we come across the FBI agent that I was talking about. Fred Duncan.
Fred Duncan.
His name is Fred Duncan.
Classic.
And he's in the FBI. We first met him because when Trask was trying to convince whoever to approve his Sentinel thing, Fred Duncan was the other side of the thing. He was like, no, we can work with the mutants.
Right.
So Trask killed the mutants.
He's good cop.
He's good
Duncan
cop. He really is. And it seems, right off the bat, it seems pretty genuine. I think a lot of the time you end up with these kinds of characters where they're like, no, it'll be fine. And then it turns out that they're evil. Yeah. But he seems, there's something about him that you just sort of like, yeah, this guy.
Yeah, I think something kind of signals that like, no, really, though.
Yeah.
No, really, though.
Yeah. Like, you're signaled to just like get on board with this guy. Yeah. But anyway, he like goes over, he just like goes up to them, right?
Yeah, with the stuff with Namor and Bomb, like that whole thing, like this fight has drawn the FBI out there.
Yeah.
And so he's there, and he and Wolverine have kind of a like, hey man, situation.
Yeah. So they just sort of, it's like a one-on-one situation. It's not even, I don't think it's like, the FBI is on your side now. It seems to be more like Wolverine and this Fred guy.
And I think somehow in here, this is the way they figure out where Yeti's brother is being held.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere in this interaction.
Does Fred know?
I think that he does, but I don't think that he's like, so come and destroy the FBI, but that's kind of what they do.
But I don't think it's the FBI. Is it Trask?
No, I think it is the FBI, but I think
You think the FBI is doing experimentation on mutants?
Well, Virus is causing it, though.
I don't think it's the FBI.
Oh, do you not? No, I think it is.
I mean, I guess, I don't know. It just seems more...
We'll say a shady government agency.
Shady government agency, I will take.
I think it's the FBI, but...
I mean, Fred Duncan is an FBI agent.
Yes.
But I think that there's just like, I don't know if it's a third party.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's the FBI
right. Okay.
doing the stuff with Virus.
Right.
I mean, maybe it is, but I didn't get that
But I think it's
impression.
Virus's control. He's controlling this, whatever this squad is, Virus is like controlling it.
Okay. Anyway, whatever's happening.
Yeah.
Fred Duncan.
He's good.
Wolverine.
Yes.
Have a truce.
They do. So now the mini team like converges on the location where Yeti's brother's being held. A big old fight. They destroy all the holding cells.
Oh, and the people in like the robot outfits.
Yes, and everybody is like released, and we get a new members of the team.
Yes, right.
And these new members, whose names I don't remember, we said that there wasn't much introduction to the other characters. It's like, now this one is like a shadow, and this one's like a something else, and that's all you get. Like,
yeah,
you really
well, I mean, you say new members of the team, but
Yeah.
it's like they're just like there sometimes,
Right.
and sometimes they're just
Yeah.
not. Like, it feels like you'll go an entire issue and
Yes.
just like not even see them. But anyway, bunch of new kids who were being held by the FBI.
Yeah.
And also Yeti's brother.
Yeti's brother.
So we have a bigger team.
Back at the mansion, everybody's fitting in. We're still doing some training montages. Here's where Victor and Holly are like, what if we
Went over here.
and maybe...
Close the door.
Yes. Yep.
So they have a little thing.
And Wolverine kind of interrupts it and is like, "Ooh,
But
what?"
don't they say like very like weirdly pointedly like she's 18, it's okay.
Yeah, they do.
Like
They do.
why? I don't
They do.
understand. And like honestly, why is she 18? Because it doesn't really have any bearing on anything.
Well, my reading of it is that they wanted to have big, scary, like monster Sabretooth.
Because he's big and she's diminutive.
Yes, I think they want
That's
to.
one thing, but
Yeah.
she doesn't have to be that young. She
I
could
think-
be a small
No, listen,
23-year-old.
I agree with you. I think they're just trying to make it be like this is a small, innocent person, and he's Sabretooth, and you know how bad Sabretooth
Listen,
is.
they don't even play up any of those elements.
No, they don't.
They don't. Like,
Yeah.
she just incidentally, the way it reads is that she happens to be 18 and then she sleeps with Sabretooth.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't feel like she's particularly innocent. It doesn't feel like she's particularly vulnerable. Like,
Yeah.
there's none of those things are things
Yeah.
that are played into in any way. So it's just all that we get is creepy, almost
Yes.
kid stuff.
Yeah, you're
like,
right.
I don't get it.
No, I I think it was a weird move because I don't think you lose anything by making her a little older. And they do make a very big deal about it. But that's the only thing I could think of is that they're trying to...
I'm sure, but like then you have to like do the work of actually playing those
I agree.
themes, you know? Like you can't just be like, she's 18 and therefore...
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. Xavier keeps popping up. He's sort of like tangential to the storyline. And I don't super know why. I guess, I mean, like we're seeing a little bit him dabbling in the idea of having some influence in this world.
Yes.
So I guess maybe that's why. I mean,
I think so. I mean, I think it's like what he really wants is to just kind of ride off into the sunset with Moira, but I think he just keeps being in this position where it's like he has to make a choice to not help mutants.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what happens here. This is what you're talking about earlier, where he sees the file and the mutant menace is what they're calling it now, and he gets himself reassigned there using his mind powers. And for no reason, we get a little Star Trek reference here.
Yeah,
because Xavier is like, make it so.
Yep,
You know,
just
it
like,
has to be. It
just
has
like
to be.
Captain Picard.
Both played by.
I mean, it definitely, yes, by Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart.
But yes, I don't know. I guess I just don't see this element as remotely necessary. But maybe it plays, I mean, like if you're thinking that it was supposed to be more than 5 issues, then maybe it would end up going somewhere. But I don't see why you include him at all. I mean, like it's all you need.
Or have it be a tag. Have it be a tag at the end.
Yeah,
if
and
you
then
want
Xavier decided to do this.
Or have them cross paths in some way. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing him at the beginning would have been plenty. I don't think it doesn't add anything to the story.
No, I don't think it does.
But whatever. Anyway, it happens.
And that takes us into issue 4.
Issue 4, and we've got all of our new characters.
Yes, so we've got Forrest Golden Dawn, which is Yeti's brother. I don't know how much we've gotten into Virus so far, but he's portrayed as like a monster spider kind of.
Yeah, he's like a weird like blobby thing.
With like...
Have we seen him?
We have seen him. By this point, we have seen him. We haven't gotten the full, like, this is what this whole thing is about, but we've seen him.
But it's like this weird thing where he like rides a person.
Yeah.
And this is confusing to me because he calls them a mount.
Right.
And acts like he needs a person to ride.
Yes.
But then later he's like wearing jeans and just like walking around.
Yes. But
do you know what I mean?
I do. And I think it's because he has these people. So stupid. And he is controlling them, but his control extends beyond just him riding them. And I don't know if
I'm sure,
I don't know
but
if he's like deriving power from that connection. I don't really know. Also, that's not how viruses work. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, his power seems to be multifaceted.
Yeah.
He rides a person. I'm just going to break down what it appears Virus does.
Yeah.
He rides a person.
Yes.
That person is his mount and just is like not a person anymore, just like basically his body is what it seems like. Then he can also connect his tentacles to people and use them as puppets.
Right.
And he can also infect people.
Well, that's like a virus.
That's like a virus. Viruses infect people.
Yeah.
And make them later do his bidding.
Uh-huh.
So that appears to be the situation with Virus. And you think that Virus just took over this FBI crew?
I do kind of think that, yeah.
Okay. Because I guess I felt like he was being used as a tool, but then sort of like took over.
Right. That's what, yeah, I agree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. He didn't just like come there and be like, I'm gonna take over.
No, because so the team is expanded by Forrest Golden Dawn, Meteor, Shadow Shift, and Scout. Like these are all
Scout. Who's Scout?
That's what I'm saying. You don't really get anything from them.
Shadow Shift I can picture. It's like that like
Scout has kind of a Peter Pan vibe.
Yes, I remember that. Okay.
And so they're all back at the X wherever they're at. I don't even know. And
Wolverine's apartment?
A lot of...
No, he does say something about that. He says it's like some cabin or something. And he's like, yep, I've been setting this cabin aside in case I ever...
so it is. It's Wolverine's cabin.
It's Wolverine's cabin.
Okay.
That he like was going to retire to or whatever. Like if he ever
retire
stopped
from
being Wolverine.
Okay. But anyway, there's trouble in paradise here. People are not getting along.
Yeah, well, they don't it's what it is. It's actually some decent storytelling for a second here, because the new group doesn't get why Wolverine's in charge.
Right.
The original group that he like saved and stuff have experienced it, and so they're sort of like behind him still, but there's this whole group that like just never saw him in action and is just like, why are we listening to this old guy, and like what's happening? And so there's like this sort of tension happening there.
And it also, like, Creed is getting the idea that maybe Forrest and Hollow are having a little thing. There's just a lot of problems going on in Wolverine's retirement cabin at this point, and it's problematic. So we do see Virus's whole background here. We see him like as a weird mutant child.
Boy, this was weird. We saw him as a baby.
Yeah.
Like, they're in the hospital.
Yeah.
His mother has just given birth
to,
and the smiling nurse presents them with like his fully like weird like
a meatball with 3 legs.
Yes. And like, honestly, I don't even know what to say.
Right.
Because
because everybody acts like they're like, oh, look, every baby's different.
Here's your bounce. Exactly. But this is
monster.
Like super extreme.
Yeah.
And then it's like the parents reject him and are like, they're just like mean to him right off the bat. And that's all sad. And then he's like not abused directly, but like very harshly treated.
Yeah.
And then at some point, and this is pretty sad, he sort of accidentally manipulates his mother into like treating him nicely, like a normal relationship kind of situation.
Yeah.
And
gets a hunger for it.
He can't let it go.
Right.
Like, that's, obviously that makes perfect sense. But then he kills her. Why does he kill her?
I don't think
She dies.
She dies.
She gets sick and dies.
Right.
And this is his first experience with like the effect of his power.
Right.
And then his father
blames him and is like going to kill him. And then he takes his father over, and his father works for the government.
Right.
And so that's how we kind of get into the government and everything.
Yeah.
Until this issue, well, I guess until we met Forrest, I thought that Virus was going to turn out to be Yeti's brother. I thought that's what we were teeing up.
Oh, that didn't even cross my mind.
No, that's not what happens here.
This is a similar situation to like Mojo for me.
I don't serious Mojo vibes from him.
Don't. I like the idea with the X-Men of toying with physical mutations.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. And like, how far does it go? And like, where does humanity end and all this stuff? But like, it's just so unpleasant. I just don't like looking at it, Like, I just don't enjoy these kinds of characters.
Yeah, I agree. It was like Hector Hammond, to bring it back to Green Lantern. I mean, that's just...
Yes! Unbearable.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
anyway.
It is. Yeah, so we learned Virus's background. We got all this problem with the X-Men. Suddenly the FBI is converging on Wolverine's place, or whoever, the government, with the Sentinels.
I mean, I'll concede that it's maybe the FBI.
Okay, so the Sentinels are in tow. Turns out that Forrest was still under Virus's control and was the one who was causing all the problems with the X-Men, who tipped off the government where they were. And so everybody comes here, and it looks like it's really kind of over, and Logan and Victor are captured by Virus. He's sort of like, he doesn't have control of them yet, but it's sort of like he's got them.
Yeah, and he has this plan because like one of you two is going to be my new mount because I can't kill you.
Yep, that's how we roll into issue 5.
So, is this whole thing ending up to just be Virus's plot to like make his life better?
I guess.
Just like start to finish, this is all just Virus being like, I need a mount.
It seems like he specifically needs mutants.
Right. Well, I mean, it's probably just one of those things where, like, you assume that if you need something unusual, then maybe look at mutants.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
He'll find it. And he eventually did. He found 2, healing factor mutants,
So this gets a little confusing to me because, like, you have Hollow's powers at play, you have Virus's powers at play, but something happens where Victor, I believe, is under Virus's control.
Yes.
And attacks Hollow.
Yeah, he, like, slashes her.
Yeah.
And
then blames Logan instantly. I think this is where I kind of wonder, like, was this really meant to be the end here? Because the turn against Logan when Hollow's injured is instant.
Yeah, I mean, it's conceivable that it's an artificial turn, but it's also he's
kinda how they
a
work.
man-child.
Okay.
He doesn't have a lot of emotional depth.
He's basically saying, look, when we had the first batch, I was ready to cash out and just like, we'd done our good and I want to go on. You were the one who wanted to make this a whole big thing. And now we've made it a whole big thing. And now Hollow's going to die and it's all your fault.
Yeah, so which is, not untrue.
No, he's right. He's right. It's a quick
turn,
is all I'm saying.
He was never invested in the mission. Like, he
No.
didn't have any interest, and he was. I mean, that did happen. He wanted to leave, and Logan talked him out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so now we have the Sentinels coming in, and this part gets confusing to me, because the Sentinels are kind of destroying everything. There's another FBI agent.
There's another FBI agent?
Yes, and I don't know.
Like a second FBI agent?
Name-
Do you mean the one who runs into the building?
Yes.
That's not Duncan?
It says Danzig. Agent Danzig. And I don't know if that's meant, because it should be Duncan. It really should be Duncan.
I think it has to be the same character. That's crazy. It's got a different name?
Yes. Yeah.
Because, okay, I didn't know that it had a different name, and my interpretation was that all along he had been motivated by having mutant sons.
Yeah.
But this is just some random other agent?
Now you're making me question it.
Well, that just seems insane.
I'm going to look it up.
Okay, well, I guess some random other
yes.
FBI agent
I've just confirmed it. It is Jamie Danzig whose kids are the two of the new recruits.
Which ones? Oh, Scout and Shadow Shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're happy to see their father.
Yes.
It's just a little reuniting.
Yeah.
That's so random.
I know. And I was really confused because I really thought that it was Duncan.
Yeah.
I
thought until this moment that it was Duncan.
I think Danzig is exclusive just to this, and I think Fred Duncan is like a character.
Yeah, he shows up.
So, but then Xavier, this is another like Xavier moment out of nowhere. Xavier makes it seem like he makes the onlookers think that Danzig and his kids died in the fire, and now they're just gonna like go live a life on the run, like a secret life of bees. I don't know. So yeah.
So then we get back to Sabretooth and Holly, who's dying.
I thought she was dead.
I also thought she was dead.
She's just
not dead.
She's dying.
She's in the process.
She's currently dying
of dying. And what seems to happen is that they get her to a hospital on time.
Yeah.
And they, it was looked rough for a
touch
while,
and go.
but
touch and go.
She made it. She pulled through, and then you see this whole sequence of her getting better, and them getting married, and then they have kids, and they get old together. They live this whole life.
I thought this was pretty well done because it took me a minute.
Oh no, not even a second.
Not
even a second.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it was early on, but like when she was recovering, I was like, "Oh, okay, all right,
you
great,
fool."
But yes, it turned out that she showed him this whole thing, and she was like, "It doesn't matter, like whether it was real or not. Like it can be real to us." Yes.
This makes it worse.
It does?
This makes it worse.
Oh, okay.
Because now he has the experience of having this whole life with this woman, and then she is taken from him.
Yeah.
I mean, from his perspective, if he's really going to like view this as a real experience, then he's lost his life companion.
And children.
And children.
And children. Yeah.
Like but before, it's like, oh, sad, this woman I liked is now dead, and then I'm going to move on with my life.
I know, but the way that she uses the powers, too, I think it kind of has to be that way. Because she alters his brain has experienced these things, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. She shouldn't have done this at all.
No, I don't think she should have either.
This is a terrible thing to do to him.
She was a child, so, you can't really blame her.
But anyway, I guess it's romantic.
Yes, I guess. Yep.
So she dies.
Yeah, she dies.
It's very tragic.
She dies.
I
did think it was sad.
Yeah, it's sad.
I thought that was,
Well, Sabretooth, it's just that thing where, like, he's just sort of a bully, but then he finds something that makes him want to be, better, and then it's taken away. So he just runs away, doesn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
He just runs off.
Yep. He just kind of, because everything's in shambles, the FBI is there, and the place is burned down, and everybody's captured. It's a whole thing.
Now, in that moment, basically, that Duncan comes up and is like, well, at least...
Yeah.
I'm in charge now because everybody knew that I was right from the beginning.
Now that like virus has been cleared out and they've seen where everything has gone, and I truly don't remember what happens to virus, and I just read this.
I don't either. Does he die?
I've read
He
it
dies.
twice. I've read
he
it
does
twice.
die.
Okay.
He gets I don't know if he gets squished or something. Something weird. I can't
All
remember.
right, so long virus. But yeah, Fred Duncan comes up and he's like, look, they fired everybody except for me. I'm in charge of this now, so it's all going to be peaches and cream from now on.
He's like, come work with me.
Yeah.
And we'll like turn this whole thing around together. And Logan's like, that's okay.
So then you see Trask going to the other side of whatever, the other side of the political factions that really wanted the Sentinels.
Mm-hmm.
And you got him going there being like, I can make you Sentinels. And you see his son and you see the little medallion.
The medallion.
Which was cool because that's a clear callback. That's like the real solid callback to the book or the issues that Neal Adams illustrated and also plotted. Like he's an uncredited plotter on those. So I like that he got a little callback in there to, his X-Men run. So there was some connection there. Cool. But they're doubling down on Sentinels. And then our final shot before we get to the epilogue is Magneto.
Magneto being like, I told you.
Yeah.
I told you this was foolishness.
Yeah.
I will put together my own group.
My own
brotherhood.
So in the epilogue, much like in the Wolverine, we're in Canada where Victor finds Logan and Wolverine is just like trying to get drunk at a bar.
Yeah, I guess maybe what they're trying to do, which I think is weird, is to be like, Logan was a nice guy who went after his passions and tried to help people. Then this happened, and then he became a weird roving drunk person.
I think so.
And then he became good again through his experiences with the X-Men.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
And yes, and Victor is like, I know you don't care about anybody, but as soon as you do, I'll be there and I'm going to take her from you. And then he gives a big wad of bills to the bartender. Is like, he drinks all he wants on me.
Yeah, it's cold.
It is cold. And then Logan wanders outside and is drunk, I guess. I mean, that's not really how it works, but he certainly seems drunk. And the government comes up.
I love the government. This must be Canada, right?
The Canadian government,
it's the Royal Mounted Police.
Yeah, the Royal Mounted Police come up.
Dudley
Do-Right reaches down. And
anyway, they just offer Logan. They're like, we're coming up with this thing called Weapon X, and it's probably gonna kill you. And he's like, sold.
Yep. Dark.
That's it.
And then, no, there's one more. There's a button on it. Xavier decides to start a school.
You know what I'm gonna do?
Start a school.
I'm gonna start a school.
The end.
The end.
Hilary, what did you think?
Listen, talking through it just now made it feel like a hot mess.
Uh-huh.
While I was reading it, it felt pretty, fine, but it didn't, I don't know. I didn't like it.
Okay.
I didn't hate it. Mm-hmm. I love hating things.
I know.
It's more fun.
Yeah.
But it was just sort of whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean,
that's fair.
I'm not a huge Wolverine person.
Yeah.
I mean, when you come up with a concept and you're just like, well, what if Wolverine did it first? I'm like, I don't care. Mm-hmm. So that right out of the gate is a problem for me.
Got it.
But for the most part, I thought it was fine.
Yeah. I mean, I would put it square in between the garbage dumpster fire that was Batman Odyssey and the kind of weird, groovy Coming of the Superman. This one, to me, is right down the middle.
Yeah.
Because it isn't trash. I don't even really think that it's bad, and I think for kind of a what if this happened kind of a story, I had a good time with it. I knew I was going to have to reread it, once that got picked and you asked me to do this, but I was fine with it. You know what I mean? I wasn't.
It also sort of feels like, has this not been done? I just feel, I mean, I guess it's just after the fact. We ultimately see Wolverine leading the school and those kinds of things. But it just doesn't feel like unmined concepts.
Yeah.
That why we just have to know what would happen if Wolverine was on a mission like this. Because we've seen similar things.
Well, it also doesn't really, I mean, you could argue that it shows you a different side of Sabretooth. But I also think we've kind of seen that too. But it's not highlighting a different part of Wolverine than we've seen before.
No.
It's taking the Wolverine that we end up with, like you said, and putting him back in the very beginning. And it's just sort of
who cares?
Yeah, I guess that's probably what would happen.
Right, exactly.
But that I didn't hate it. That's the thing.
No, yes, that's true. It was fine.
If somebody came up to me and they were like, should I read this? I would be like, yeah, sure. It's 5 issues. Why not? You'd say no.
I think I'd say don't bother.
Okay.
But, I mean, listen, people love Wolverine.
True.
I'm an anomaly. Like, I just don't care. But, like, people love him. So maybe, yeah, read it. You'll like it because it's him.
And you've kind of changed my mind about this, but I actually thought the stuff with Sabretooth and Hollow, I did actually kind of find that interesting.
Really?
Yeah, that Sabretooth sort of like, you know, before everything went crazy, had this connection and like...
Yeah, I guess if there had been anything from her in it.
Yeah.
It
well,
just
you're right.
felt completely...
Well, that's what I was saying.
Hollow.
Fun with synonyms. Homonyms.
Homonyms.
Darn it.
No, it's the other one.
What I was saying at the beginning, though, is I think the ultimate flaw in the Hollow character is that she doesn't have a through line of her own. I mean, I agree with you. Her sole purpose is just to, like, give Victor
and it
that
would be
character
super
movement.
easy to... I mean,
It
like,
would.
she's an interesting character.
Yeah.
She has an interesting background.
Yeah.
It's interesting for her to be, like, hooking on her, like,
Power.
Yeah, like, that's interesting. She has a lot of potential, but they just subsume her with Sabretooth.
Well, I think outside of the scene where she's introduced, she doesn't really have another scene where she is anything other than like a reactionary character. So
Yep. Oh,
anyway, I've read worse. I'll read worse again.
Willingly.
But I've read a lot better also.
Seems like that does happen to you a lot, where it's like everybody hates this, but you love it.
Yeah.
Just like random comics.
True.
So,
it's true. Yeah, I know.
You'll definitely be seeking them out. Well, thank you once again for going on this journey with me.
I had a good time. Happy to do it.
You're also elsewhere on the Radio Meanwhile Network.
I am. We just started this Endorian Life as the latest Radio Meanwhile podcast where we're going through all the Ewoks appearances. We just recorded Battle for Endor. The Ewoks movies are not good.
Oh, that's sad.
I'm learning. But we always wanted to be covering the cartoon because that's, those are fun.
So you're just forcing yourself through the
Yes.
the
And
movies.
we finished Battle for Endor. We were like, why did we do this? Why didn't we just start with the cartoon and then do like a flashback episode or something?
Not a bad idea.
In hindsight, I wish we would have. But yes, you can find this Endorian Life wherever you get your podcasts and come over there and listen in.
Where else? There's one more.
Oh, that's true. 902 and Here We Go, a 90210 rewatch podcast. That's where my friend Kendra and I go through every episode of Beverly Hills 90210. I watched these religiously as a child in the 90s for some reason. Kendra had never seen an episode before, so we're just going through. We're in season 5 right now, so
Fun.
Come on over.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, our next episode over here is back to the animated series. So we're doing A Rogue's Tale and Beauty and the Beast.
Always a good time. That animated series, I feel like, has aged very well.
There's not a person alive who was alive in the 90s who does not love that show.
Oh, no. You're absolutely right.
I mean, just like go on Twitter. It's everywhere.
Before 90210, X-Men the Animated Series was my first like serialized drama that I just couldn't. Missing an episode was not an option for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I feel like we need to go on Twitter and just like open it up to the universe for who played what X-Men animated series character with their friends at the park.
Oh, sure.
Like everybody.
I know.
Everybody has something.
I know.
I was Jubilee.
I bet you were Jubilee.
Sometimes Storm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was not Rogue. I think my twin sister was Rogue.
I see.
So.
I was pretty consistently a Cyclops.
Yeah, I guess that
Nightcrawler was
That's
Cyclops
more
or
interesting.
Nightcrawler.
Did you do the accent?
I did. My Nightcrawler wasn't as heavily Christian as the one in X-Men the Animated Series.
Okay.
For the purposes of the playground. Yeah. Anyway.
Played into it less. Okay. Well, that does it for this episode. Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. You can find out more about this show and others like it at our network's website, radiomeanwhile.com. Follow us on Twitter at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, or share this show wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.